Welcome to Morning Star. I'm Larissa Fernand, and with me today is Vishal Khandelwal, founder of Safal Niveshak. Vishal, it's fantastic to have you here. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Larissa, for this opportunity of talking to you.
Okay, my very first question to you starts from a quote of Richard Feynman, which says that the first principle is you must not fool yourself because you're the easiest person to fool. So, has there been any bias which got the better of you, which fooled you, so to speak?
I
Can you
think
start off by you sharing that?
I think that's a very apt quotation that you used to start this conversation, Larissa. And I must thank you for that. And I would also consider myself a big fool if I start believing that despite that I am the biggest person to fool myself, right? I've got over my biases, or I've tried to overcome my biases, because till the time the brain is there, till the time the brain is functioning, I think it's very difficult for us humans to get over what we have been believing in all our lives, right?
Yeah.
So I think that is one thing that I would like to start with. But since you asked about one bias that really gets the better of me almost all the time, which I am trying to overcome, but I think it's very difficult for me to overcome, I think that is confirmation bias. Confirmation bias, I think, as a behavioral scientists define, is the way that we only seek evidence or seek information that confirms to our pre-existing beliefs, and we're not willing to change the mind, as Salman Khan, I think, said in this movie Wanted, right? एक बार मैंने commitment कर दी तो मैं अपने आप की भी नहीं सुनता. So it's like we've committed, our mind has committed to something, and then we are not willing to listen to even ourselves or to disconfirming evidences that people are telling us that you are wrong, you made a mistake, right? So it's like that internal yes man, which is shouting inside your head, always echoing what you already believe in. And the more you feed it information that you already believe in, the stronger that voice becomes. And it's very difficult to get over. Now, I think the question that I always try to ask for myself is that uh, why is it so difficult for a mind which is already made to change, right? But I think the answer lies in the fact that we are mentally very lazy people, right? So for us, it's much easier to seek evidence or seek information that we already believe in than actually work hard to get evidence or information that disconfirms what we already believe in. So I think it's so difficult to change our minds in most things in life, investing otherwise as well. And I think this is, as I mentioned, a bias which is very difficult to cover up, very difficult to get over. But I'm trying my best to get over. 20 years down the line, I'm still there.
So share some more. How are you trying to get over it?
See, I
What do
think
you deliberately do?
yeah, so one of the way of understanding and learning about biases of our minds, of our brains, is that you can only expect to minimize the mistakes that you make, or minimize the harm from the mistakes that you're making, which are emotional, right? But you cannot eliminate them. So the way I'm trying to overcome them, I think, is largely by trying to minimize them. Once I understand what confirmation bias is all about, once I go through my investing journal or go through my checklist of how often do I fall prey to this confirmation bias? As time progresses, what I've learned is that, and as I look in the hindsight, look back in the mirror, I realize that the mistakes or the magnitude of mistakes that caused me huge problems in the early part of my career as an investor, that magnitude and the quantum of mistake has reduced just because I'm aware of what's causing me problems. It's all about awareness and minimization, and not elimination.
As human beings, we are always evolving, always learning. And it could be our experiences, the experiences of others, the books we read, the information we consume, the podcast you do. So, how have you evolved as an investor? So, more specifically, what is it you once believed that you no longer believe, or vice versa?
In fact, there are several things, Larissa, that I used to believe. I've not really changed my views 180 degrees on those fronts, but there has been a gradual and a subtle shift on those ideas over the period of time. And it's a constant evolution, right? I cannot say that I've evolved. I'm evolving would be a better word, on a daily basis. So one of the foremost things which I think have changed my mind slightly on is the definition of risk. Right. When I started my career as an investment analyst 20 years back, and I worked on that job for almost 8 years, right? My idea of risk was stock prices jumping up and down, like typically happens for most investors who are starting out. They see stock price volatility, they see the stock market on a daily basis, and they think that this is the biggest risk to their investing, right? But over a period of time, as I learned more about Buffett and Munger and people like them, I've come to realize that risk, of course, is permanent loss of capital. And there's a further evolution on that front, that it's not just permanent loss of capital, it's also missing opportunities, right? So risk for me is two pronged. It's permanent loss of capital. So I try to avoid those businesses or those investments that can lose me money permanently. And secondly, I think it's also, as I mentioned, it's all about missing opportunities. So I'm always on a lookout for those opportunities where I can expect to grow my wealth, create my wealth without losing a good night's sleep, right? So another evolution on the risk front for me has been qualitative. So again, always thinking in terms of wealth creation and money. I think we all equate risk with wealth creation and losing money and all those kind of things. But I think losing your peace of mind is also a huge risk that you take when you come to the stock market. Right? The stock market, I understand, is the greatest humiliator out there. Right? The more smart you think you feel, the more deep you're going to fall in that hole of mistakes. So the more I keep remembering this idea that this is a great humiliator, right? And I can end up losing my peaceful night's sleep. Apart from the money, I think the more careful I am of what I'm doing in the stock markets.
How do you describe yourself as an investor? And I ask you this because you're a great believer in first principles. So do you go by the conventional I'm growth, I'm value, guard, barbell, or have you evolved your own strategy?
I think that's also an evolution, as you rightly mentioned the term. So when I started out 20 years back, I was more so of a growth investor. When I say growth, it simply means that in simple word, it simply means that you're buying or looking at businesses that are in a growth phase, right? You're also willing to pay a higher price for those kind of stocks. In the interim, I would also an extreme kind of a value investor where after burning my hands in a few stocks, I tended to move towards buying only cheap stocks, right? In a pure Grahamian sense, not extremely cheap stocks because those are not available anywhere today in today's world. But somewhere down the line, it became a mix of growth versus value, right? But in the last 10 years, as part of the evolution phase, I think that extreme differentiation of growth versus value has diluted for me, right? So there's no extremities that I am thinking about anymore, right? So as you rightly use the term GARP, which is growth at reasonable price, I'm that kind of investor. But again, in evolution, GARP for me also mean growth at reasonable piece, right? So while I want to grow as an investor, while I want to invest in those businesses which are growing at the right valuation, I would also want to partner. I also want to partner with those businesses whose managements I want to partner with, which give me ample peace that they are managing their businesses well. And my job as an investor is just to allocate my capital sensibly and just forget in the sense, not forget about them, but just let them actually build the businesses, and I'm just a part owner in those kind of business. So growth at reasonable piece is what kind of investing philosophy or strategy you may call it, is the kind of investor I am today.
And then you hold on, is it? By and large, you don't just sell. You prefer holding on patiently.
So my idea is to buy and never sell, right? So
Ah,
never sell does not mean that I will not sell my stocks if businesses are doing badly or something is going wrong or I realize I made a mistake. But the idea is to never sell, and so the idea is to work so hard while making that decision of buying the stock in the first place or buying the business in the first place, that I may never have to sell those businesses. So that's the idea.
you know, Vishal, you must be meeting so many people, whether it's online or in real life. What is one behavioral bias that really irks you, that really irritates the hell out of you?
I think that's easy. Without doubt, that's overconfidence, right? I have been too underconfident in my life. Probably that magnifies that bias when I see people overconfident, especially the new and young investors. And we have a plethora of those kind of people who are new in the market, who are overconfident, who believe in this maxim that "apna time aa gaya," right? This time is different, and I think it was Sir John Templeton who said that this time is different are the four most dangerous words in investing. So overconfidence stems from incompetence, right? There's a bias. There's a term called the Dunning-Kruger effect after the scientist who actually found it. And the Dunning-Kruger effect is simply when we are less competent in something, we are more confident in something. And then as we gain competence in life or investing in anywhere, right, we realize that we were wrong all the way, right? There's so much to learn. There's so much to know. There's so much to be get humiliated about, right? That you start learning as you gain more competence and you gain more confidence, right? So I think I hold that idea closely to my mind because overconfidence, I think, is a great killer, right? I would rather be a person who with complete humility accept that I know nothing, right? And that's the reason I keep learning and keep making myself better. But the day I think that I become overconfident, the moment I see people who are overconfident, my
Yeah.
first advice to them is please tone down, please tone down.
I read somewhere your views on forgiveness, and I quite resonated with it. I really liked it. So, can you extend it to investing? How forgiving would you be of a bad management or promoter in a company you've invested in and they really messed up?
So I think forgiveness is a great idea, great virtue to possess. So I am all for seeking forgiveness and giving forgiveness of people who wronged me in life. Right? But I think when it comes to investing, the idea of being firm, right, instead of forgiving, empathizing instead of taking everything into stride and believing that whatever the management does is perfectly fine. I think I am not, to use the term forgiving, I am not forgiving over there, but I am very firm in my belief that if I have allocated capital to a business, if I have trusted the management or the business owners to take care of my capital well, right, they should be doing that because that's their primary responsibility, right? So when I am looking at business and managers, apart from the financial performance, though everything is reflected in the long term financial performance, I'm always looking for people with high integrity. I'm always looking with people who have not played the wrong hand with minority shareholders in the past, who've not defrauded. Even a small fraud or a small scam is a no-go area for me, right? I'm always looking for people who are competent, right? So these are the things which I'm looking at when I'm seeking managements with whom I can partner for the long run. On the other side, when I find even a doubt of integrity missing from management's actions or a very short-term focus, I think those are areas where I don't want to go, even if the stocks are cheap or even everyone is making money on those stocks. Not at all. That keeps me sane and that keeps my life at peace. So firmness, I think, very important. Forgiveness for some kind of capital misallocation, maybe for a short amount of time, it's perfectly fine because we are all humans, and that comes from empathy. So once you start empathizing with managers, you are willing to forgive them for some kind of capital misallocation for a short period of time. But when it comes to ethics and integrity, I think I will not be forgiving. I would rather go and sell the stock and move on.
Ah, lovely. Yeah. Do you think meditation makes you a better investor?
I think so, though I have not been able to draw a direct cause and effect relationship. Meditation for me simply means sitting at a quiet place, closing my eyes, and trying to get over my thoughts, just focusing on my breath. So that's as simple as that. What I've realized whenever I've meditated, whenever I've done this practice, I have been much more calmer and much more thoughtful in that day. And the more I repeat that, the more thoughtful and the more calmer I get till the time I'm actually doing that, right? So maybe that has helped me become much more mindful as far as my investing goes, as far as my work goes, right? So that is probably the cause and effect relationship. So I think it's a great practice for people who are just running here and there, who are not stopping by to even reflect on what they are doing. Meditation is not the direct result, not a direct cause of how calm you are. I think once you start meditating, you actually become more mindful of whatever you are doing, whether you're washing dishes or you are investing in stocks or you are conducting a surgery. I think you're much more mindful of what you are doing. And once you're mindful, you're more thoughtful, you will be taking that step of making that next decision much more cautiously and in your complete senses. So I think that ends up getting out better outcomes over a long period of time. So probably that's a relation. And I think to answer your question short, I think meditation or mindfulness has helped me become a better investor over a period of time.
Has your podcast also, because you get so many inputs from varied individuals, has your podcast also helped you?
Of course, yes. I think one of the skills which I have tried to develop over the past few years is the idea of patient listening. Right. Most of the time, we listen because we want to answer the next question or we want to add to that conversation.
Correct.
Right. But I think in my experience of starting the podcast and running the podcast, though I started the podcast because I wanted to get over my shyness of talking, and I am completely shy of talking. I don't know how I am talking to you so much or in any conversation which I have. But generally, you will not find me talking. I am much more comfortable sitting alone behind a computer and writing my thoughts out. So it was a way for me to start listening to people patiently, right? Start talking to people patiently, right? And I think there are so many subtle aspects of running a podcast, and I'm sure you agree with that, that you end up learning so much about yourself, about the kind of person you are, about a new way of looking at the same things that you never thought about. Just to give an example, I think I was talking to William Green in one of my episodes, and a very simple idea that I've been thinking about, but not in the light that William actually put it. So I think his idea was about, and he got it from Charlie Munger, as he mentioned. He said that the way to win any game in life is to play the game that you can win, right? So and he says that I am not good at investing. I am good at interviewing people and writing about their thoughts and combining those thoughts, right, and collating those ideas and making and creating words based on that wisdom which I'm receiving. So I am not such a good investor, so I would rather give my money to a better investor or money manager who can do that. And this guy we know as one of the wisest authors in the investing space out there. I think I can highly recommend his book, Richer, Wiser, Happier, to as many people as I can. So playing the game that you can win, I think that's a first step, for a first advice that I give to any young investor, anyone who's seeking a career advice. And I offer a lot of unsolicited advice as well. Right. So how do I start? Where do I start? I think my first answer, based on again what Charlie Munger says and what William Green's told me in that podcast, is to just play the game that you can win. And that's exactly what I'm doing with my work as well. I don't know how to manage money. I find that it too risky for myself, for my expectations, for my mindset. Right. So I don't want to recommend stocks because that is not the game that I want to play, because I don't think I can win at that game. But in terms of teaching people, in terms of educating people, in terms of writing blogs, in terms of talking to you on a podcast, right? So I think these are the games where I think I enjoy a lot, and these are the games where I'm not looking at winning but just playing the games, right? So I think that is something which was a revelation for me again. And there's so many other lessons that I can talk to you about, but maybe some other day.
Another podcast. Yeah.
Certainly.
What advice would you give your children about investing or any other young person?
I think starting early, without doubt, and taking that one step at a time. And if you can just show up on a daily basis and take that one additional incremental step, you're going to go a long way, right? So that is one life advice which I often give to my kids. I'm not sure how much they listen, but I think it's going to show up in the long run, which I'm very hopeful for. So that is one thing, and I think the second, a very important advice again, is that most of the games that we play in life, or most of the things that we do in life, they are either finite or they are infinite, right? So finite is like where the game is supposed to end. Any sport that you pick up, for example, is a game which is supposed to end. But infinite games are simply games which has no ending. Investing is an infinite game, right? You are not here to meet a target or meet a wealth accumulation mark. Of course, that is what people think about and believe in, and that's the reason people invest in. But I think if you look at it as an infinite game, right, in that case, there is no ending, there is no winner, there is no loser, there is only the player, right? So my advice to my kids always has been that if you look at life and investing or money, since we're talking about money, as an infinite game, right, you're not going to concentrate on the scorecard to find out who's winning, whether I am winning or someone else is losing, doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is that you are playing the game with complete fairness and complete honesty. If you can do that in things in life apart from investing as well, I think that would be a life well lived. And I think there's no looking behind for that. You don't expect to achieve the best returns out there or achieve the best success out there, but you will be happier in life if you look at life as an infinite game. So that's my advice to them.
Wow, that was fantastic. I don't understand why you're shy of talking. You have so much to share, so much.
Thank you.
I
Thank you,
think,
Larissa.
Vishal, I think that's about it. I think I've got what I wanted. But thank you so much for engaging with me today.
It's my pleasure, Larissa. Thank you so much.
This is Larissa from Morningstar. Thank you for watching.